All right. Good morning. How y'all doing? Good. Hey, we're clapping. I haven't even done anything yet. This is a nice church. I feel very welcome. Pastor Daniel was chatting with me earlier, and he said he wanted me to send his love to you, and so he misses you guys. I come all the way from Vancouver, Canada, the lesser of the two Vancouvers. Holla! All right, so we all know that's not true. My name is Mark, and if you got a Bible, open it up to Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 61 is what we're going to do. We're going to look at a few verses in it, and man, there's lots of texts that could define somebody's life. This is one of the better ones. If you're, a guy named Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. And I'm kind of stealing that idea for our life because the reality is everything we do in life needs to begin with the question of why. Oftentimes we drift in life because we don't know the answer to the question, why am I doing what I'm doing? So every belief you have as you sit here right now, every behavior, every action you do, everything you do in life is driven by the why question. You believe things about God, you believe things about the Bible, you believe things about heaven and hell, and some of you are Christians and you're here, awesome. Some of you are not Christians and you're just exploring Christianity and spirituality, whatever. Awesome, glad that you're here. Our hope and desire is that you see that Jesus is the ultimate answer to the question of why, because why, the white hot why of your life needs to kind of drive everything you do. And here's what I mean. If you think about the person that you married, think about your wedding day, and as you're standing there, you're marrying this person and you're asking why questions, and you're trying to answer them. Why did you marry? Think about your spouse right now. Why did you marry them? You remember, like they're right beside you. You're like, man, that guy was hot. All right, so that's why I married him. Now, time goes on and whys change because now it might be he's got a good personality, whatever. It could be that they were hot and now whatever the why is, why you married them, that's what drives it. You were sitting there getting married like, why am I marrying this girl? Because she makes me happy and we connect well and da-da-da. Everything comes back to the why question. I was sitting across from a billionaire. So we don't have a lot of billionaires in Canada, but we have a few. And I was sitting across, somehow I ended up in this meeting with him, which is a whole other story. And he's a Christian guy. And I was sitting across the table from him. And he said, hey, listen, when you need to build a building, because we don't have a building right now, we're a 6-year-old church. We meet in 3 different locations that we set up and tear down every week, and they're all rentals. And so he said, when you need to build a building, don't worry, I'm going to be there. I'm going to help you, whatever, financially or whatever needs to happen. And I was sitting there going, why does a guy like this, a billionaire, sit across the table from me? I mean, there's no reason that he should be even engaging me in conversation. Here I'm a 35-year-old kid, all right? I can barely, I barely need to shave. I have no facial hair. I'm not like Pastor Daniel in that way. I have no assets. I don't own anything. I don't own my own house. I rent, man, because Vancouver, Canada, it's impossible to own. Someone my age, it's impossible. I have no money, no assets. I'm a 35-year-old kid who teaches the Bible for a living. why are you saying you're in? Why are you saying you're behind me? What's the point? And I realize it's because in that meeting, I'm pitching the vision. That's what he's getting onto. He's saying, man, I understand the why, and the why is the thing I'm getting excited about. Because I don't go in there and pitch committee meetings and, hey, don't worry, I get in and pitch, man, I want to build a building so I can go out and reach young men who are ready to shipwreck their lives with porn and make them church planters. I want to change my city. I want to change my country. I want to plant gospel-centered churches in Vancouver and Toronto and Montreal, the 3 most influential cities in my country, to change the landscape of my country. If you really want to change a country, if you want to change how it thinks and how it acts, you don't necessarily, if you want to change its laws, for instance, you don't necessarily just go and protest in front of the courts. You reach the lawyers, you reach the judges with the gospel of Jesus, and then they get their heart changed and they change the laws. That's how you change a country. And when I'm sitting with guys like that, I'm pitching that vision and they go, okay, I'm in. Because what has been answered? The why. Why do I need you? It's not to have committee meetings and potluck dinners. It's because I want to reach people with the 15 minutes I've been given on this planet. I want to reach people for Jesus. So now, some of you are sitting here and you don't know your why. You wake up, you're aimless. You're a man sitting in here and you are completely aimless. And so what you do is you adopt a lot of hobbies. And you find out ways to be out of the house as much as you can be out of the house. Because when you're at home, at work, you're the man. At home, not the man. Just the dummy, right? That's how it feels. I remember when, so we had to rent this big auditorium for our Easter Sunday service. And so I was preaching Easter Sunday, and I got home. So all my kids, they don't usually come into the church service, right? Because they're down in the kids wing. And so all my daughters were there. So I got 3 daughters, 9, 7, and 5. My 9-year-old looks at me when we get home that night, and I'm putting her to bed. And she says, Dad, you were up on that stage, and you really kind of, when you were preaching Jesus, man, it was like everybody in that room, 5,000 people at one time looking at you. It was like, this guy's a man. This guy knows. He knows where he's going. He knows what's happening. He's telling it, man. And then she's like, why aren't you like that at home? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I don't know, just at home, you're like, mom's like, hey, what about this? You're like, hey, where's the vacuum, And so I understand that tension. That's how we roll, right? And so what we do as men is we drift, man. We don't want to go home because home means we're getting told what to do, and home means we don't know where the vacuum is. But at work, man, we feel like we're needed. And so this kind of thing, you wake up, and women, it's the same kind of thing. You got different stuff, but you haven't answered the why question. You don't know why you exist. You don't know why you make money. You don't know why you woke up this morning. Ultimately, I'm talking purpose, why. And here's Isaiah, and he lays down a beautiful why. He says this. So Isaiah 61, verse 1-4, he goes, the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me. I'm going to come back to that because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news. Listen to his why. Why is the Lord anointed him? To preach good news to the poor. He sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and the opening of the prison to those who are bound. Here's your why, all right? To reach the brokenhearted and the captives and those who are bound with the God. Make sure that they meet Jesus and introduce them to the God of the universe. That's your why, period. And some of you, now, if that's your why, then you have to start to filter everything in your life through that why. That means my time, my money, my family, my house, everything about me comes around this question of how do I do that? My why is to reach the brokenhearted, to reach the difficult people, to make sure that they actually meet the God of the universe, the captives. Now, this is what happened to me when I was 17. I didn't grow up in a Christian home at all. I think I shared with you last time I was here, but for those of you who weren't, I grew up in a home where my father was completely atheistic, so much antagonism toward Christianity. So my name is Mark, and they named my brother Matthew. He's 4 years, no, we're not done. He's 4 years older than me, all right? They named him Matthew, and my dad said, we have to spell his name with one T because we don't want to be biblical. 4 years later, named me Mark. Check this. If we had another kid, he would have been, name him Luke. I don't care. Hey, there's John. He didn't have a clue. This is the home I grew up in, completely antagonistic. I didn't become a Christian until I was 17 years old. I was in high school. A guy introduced me to Jesus. I never walked into a church until I was 19 years old. And the only reason I stayed is because there was a really good-looking girl at the front, and I went, oh, I like church. So here's the deal. People like me, captive, bound, even though I don't know it. Some of you are sitting here right now. Isaiah says you are captive, you are bound, but you don't feel like it. If you would have walked up to me at 17 and gone, man, you're bound, I would have gone, I'm free. But I wasn't free. I was living for myself, for everything a 17-year-old kid lives for. I was living for those things versus the things of Jesus. And Isaiah says those kind of people, those captive people, the brokenhearted people, those are the people that you were born to reach. But sometimes we start to drift toward the clean people, the people who they're not the brokenhearted, they're not the raw, right? They're the put together, they're the good. Christianity starts to take on this kind of good people role, and Isaiah's going, man, it's the captives, it's the people who are bound. Those are the people. So I remember when I planted our church, it was 50 people in a gym, and we started to grow. And I remember I would look around and I would see a lot of kind of clean Christian people start to come through the doors. And that's not what I planted a church for. I planted a church because I wanted to reach dudes like me who were completely philosophically opposed to Christianity, who were living their lives for everything but God. And so I saw these kind of neat Christians, like, you know, people who you go, okay, that's definitely a Christian, like 100%. And so I kind of started to see a bunch of them around, and I was like, oh man, I don't know, you know, and anyway, I just remember the encouragement because I started looking at pastors like this, and hey man, you're supposed to be reaching those who are bound, and the captives, and the brokenhearted, and the poor, and what's going on? And there's all these clean people, and then we got a phone call one day. So our church started to kind of grow, and it was interesting because it was in this little cul-de-sac where everybody had bought these homes, so everything was quiet. And then the church started to grow, and everyone started to park all over the place, all right, and disturb their quiet Sunday, right? They bought this $2.5 million home in this cul-de-sac, so it was quiet on the weekends. And then we planted our church. We had 50 people. Then it started to grow, so it went to 2 services and then 3 services. And people were parking all over the place, all right? People would, because there was no parking, so people would walk like 10 minutes, all right? It was scary. People would be looking out their, you know, their blinds, like, what's going on, honey? And there'd be people walking down the street. It's like The Walking Dead. And everyone got afraid, and they're like, wah! And what began to happen is people started to meet Jesus, and I began to go, okay. And I remember the phone call I got one Monday morning. It was a guy who owned one of these beautiful little cul-de-sac things. And he goes, I'm ticked at your church. I said, why? He goes, because a guy parked his pickup truck and his wheels were up on my lawn, all right, on my property. And I got out and I came out and I said, get your car off my front lawn. And the guy, he was holding hands with his little family, and they were all walking into church, and he looked at me and he gave me the finger and he said, F you, I'm going to church, all right? And I was like, yes, finally, a real dude meeting Jesus. This is how your community group, your small group, your growth group, this is how they should be filled with these people. The broken, the captives, the people who don't know they need it yet. And that's some of the people in this room right now. You don't even know it. But you haven't been changed by him yet. The Spirit hasn't got a hold of you yet. And so he says, your role in life is to reach these people. The rugged, the ragged, that Christianity is dangerous. It is not nice. I can't tell you how many times I look at my church, I say, stop telling me I preached a nice sermon. If I hear one more person say, nice sermon, pastor, I'm quitting. Nice. Christianity is anything but nice. It shouldn't be nice. It should be raw. And we come in here, we're like, hey, everybody, there should be whips and flares as you walk in here. It should be like, sit down. Have you read Hebrews 11? Everyone's getting their heads cut off, pulled apart. Look at us, we're like, everything's nice, the coffee's warm, this is perfect. This is the kind of people we've become. Nice sermon, nice. I don't want it to be nice. I want it to blow your life up. I want it to destroy you. I want you to be confronted. I don't only want you to be comforted, I want you to be rebuked. Isn't that what Paul says the Bible's for? To rebuke us. Jesus says this is the most dangerous thing you will ever do. The raw, the captives, the bound. These are the people that should be in a process. And what we need to do is we need to, instead of lean away from them, lean into them, because your coworkers, your family members, they're looking at you and they're asking one question. Not just is Christianity real, but does it work? That's what they wake up thinking about in the morning. They do not think about, is this just real? And so we should establish a good apologetic to convince them it's real. They're asking the question, does it work? Does it transform a life? Does it take a captive heart and actually set it free? And they're looking at your life to figure that out. And we either are gonna lean away from that or toward it. For me, when I entered the church, I was a raw kid because I didn't know, I didn't grow up in it. I didn't know how you were supposed to talk and pray. I didn't know anything. I had the chain on my pants connected in my wallet because I didn't want anyone to steal my $5. I was a chain smoker. I swore like a sailor, and I came in to the church and I tried to, and here's what happened. The pastor got up and preached a sermon. My wife and I started dating. The hot girl that was at the thing. I was like, oh my goodness, this is great. I want to stay here. So we started dating. And I was in another relationship, so I had to, anyways, it's a long story, forget it. So we started dating, and the pastor walked up and he preached a sermon on being unequally yoked. And somebody walked up to her and said, you were unequally yoked with Mark. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, I saw him smoking outside the church the other day. He's not a Christian. And she was like, what was he smoking? He's like, cigarettes. She's like, well, praise God. It's better than what he used to smoke. See, here's the problem. We look at people, and instead of figuring out where they started, we just take a snapshot of them where they are. Figure out where people started, and where they started should be the brokenness, the captivity of even of spirit, of mind, whatever. And then our job is to set them free. That's what he just said. Now, how do we do that? How do we actually set people free? This is now the work. So we figured out the why. What is the actual how? Because the why is that you're going to set these kind of raw, real people free. And the kind of raw Christianity that Jesus sets out is something that is very difficult for us to understand. It's the kind of Christianity where in the present modern church context where everything is safe, we have trouble understanding when we read. I'm preaching through the book of Matthew right now, and 2 weeks ago I had to kind of download this message on my church that Jesus stands in front of the disciples and he says, you are going to be sheep among wolves. And I'm going to send you out as sheep among wolves, and you are to be as shrewd as serpents and innocent as doves. And I said, how crazy and upside down this is, because no shepherd who knows what he's doing is going to take sheep and put them among wolves. That's the opposite to the game. The game is, I got some sheep, and wolves are going to try to kill my sheep, and I'm going to have a stick, and I'm going to hit away the wolves from the sheep. Jesus goes, oh, you're my sheep. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you out. I just, boom, boom, ah! And they will eat you alive, man. And that's what, so if you're here and you're like, what's Christianity about? That. It's about that. What's he going to do? Is he going to make my life easier? Is he going to fill up my bank account? Is he going to heal my sickness? Is he going to fix my marriage? No. Here's what he's going to do. Boom. And the wolves are going to come at you. And your world is going to turn on you. And everybody at work's not going to believe what you believe. And they're going to hit on the Bible and hit about what you believe, about marriage. They're going to hate you. They're going to turn on you. They're going to believe the opposite to what you believe because you are a sheep among wolves that are looking to devour you. That's the call of Christianity. Now, here's why we repel and we run the opposite way, because we're born in a culture that wants to just coddle us and make everything easy, and Jesus refuses. See, you guys are in an election cycle. We notice, even though we're in Canada, we know what's happening, all right? So here's what politicians do. They get up and they say, both sides, elect me because I'll make you have more money. Elect me, I'll make you safer. This is what they do. I'll make your life better if you follow me. Jesus does the opposite. If you follow me, you'll have less money. Why? Because I'm going to ask you to give it away. And your family's going to be less safe. Why? Because I might call you in a service like this, like has happened in our church many times, to move your family to the jungles of Cambodia. I might call you and your kids. I know you got little kids, but what about the safety? I might call you in an instant like a sheep among wolves that are looking to devour you, because that's my call. This is the most dangerous thing you'll ever do. If you're here and you're wondering, what does it mean to follow Jesus? What does it mean to follow Christianity? It's the most dangerous thing you'll ever do. Is choose to follow him. But we're in a culture that wants to protect. We're in a culture where, see, this is what I try to teach my kids now, because I'm trying to set them up for the kind of tough discipleship that they're going to deal with. See, we grew up in a culture where right now, the way we parent our kids is our kids are out in the soccer field and they fall down, they have a little boo-boo, and we're like, oh, come here, Sarah, come here. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry that little kid bullied you. Let's go to Dairy Queen. I'll get you a sweet little vanilla ice cream. This is what we do. My kids, man, they're out in the field and they start running. Oh, I got a boo-boo. Just, but Daddy, why? Because life is tough, man. The wolves are going to eat you. What do you think the girls in high school in the locker room are going to sound like? They're going to eat you alive. Princess? Got to toughen up. So, these are the kinds of people he calls us to reach in Isaiah 61. Now, what about the how? How is that going to happen? A few things. I've been reading this particular leadership book, and it's really good. It's called H3 Leadership, and I want to share it as kind of the how about how we do this, all right? Here's the how. Three things. Three H's. This is what the guy talks about. The first one is, because how are you going to reach your coworker? How are you going to reach your spouse who doesn't know Jesus? How are you going to reach those who are in captivity? Check this, and they don't know it yet. They don't know. The coworker, the family member, the friend, the kid that you've got who you really want them to know the God of the universe for the sake of his glory, which is all what this is about. If you read verse 3 at the end of it, it says the planting of the Lord that he may be glorified, that's the point of life, to glorify God, not us, that the weight of God would be felt around you in your world. So this is the point, this is the why. How are you going to do it? The first thing this Brad Lomenick talks about in H3 Leadership, he says, be humble. The first thing you've got to understand, now here's where it is in Isaiah 61, right in verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon me because the Lord has anointed me. Here's the reality. Nothing is going to happen. You're not going to reach anybody. You're not going to impact missionally anybody unless the Spirit decides to take you and just blow and do the work. It's the Spirit who's going to do it. And so we can try to do it in all our own energy, but the reality is it's the Spirit that's actually going to do it. Now, here's how I know. Because Ephesians 3 talks about the idea that God can do immeasurably more than you can ever think or imagine. So I'm in Canada, all right? Canada is at least a generation ahead of you in regard to secularization, right? Like you guys had a thing a couple years ago where, there was a redefinition of marriage. Listen. That happened 15 years ago in Canada, and no one asked us. It wasn't a vote. It just happened. We just woke up one day, it was like, boom. It was like, all right. We look at Canada, we're like, dude, that place is lost. How can the Spirit move in Canada? How can he do anything? That place is so post-Christian. That's what I thought. So when I planted my church, I was 29 years old. I had 50 people in a high school gym, and here's what the goal was. In 2 years, that we're not dead. That's the win. That's the only goal we had. That we're not dead in 2 years. Awesome. There's a vision. There's a white hot why. All right, team. Don't be dead. So then when this crazy thing started to happen and people started to meet Jesus, and none of it made any sense. Because nothing the Holy Spirit, when he's in it, is going to do, he's going to go ahead of you and you're not going to be able to catch up to him. Whether it's your own sanctification or whether you plant a church and it gets ahead of you. Like it got so fast ahead of us that we started 2 services and then 3 services. And our ratio didn't make, like we were a few years ago, we were 1,200 people and I was still the only pastor. That's not a plan. That's not good structure. I was working, we didn't even have an office. I worked at a Starbucks by myself, trying to pastor 1,200 people. That's not good, but that's what happens when the Spirit blows. He goes, oh, you want to survive. That's not a goal, man. And he starts saving people, moving on people, changing people. People start to get baptized. People start bringing their whole family and friends. And this crazy move starts to happen. Not, listen to me, not because of me, but in spite of me. Not because of me. Listen, I'm a disaster, and my church knows it. It was in those early years that I sat with a guy and said, I have a great plan. There's a whole bunch of, there's a whole Chinese community where we planted our church. And I said, I want you to start a small group. You're going to do awesome. I want you to start a Mandarin speaking small group. You're going to reach all these people. It's going to be awesome. He goes, yeah, that's great. Mark, it's a really good idea, except I'm Korean. I'm like, I know. You think I'm dumb? No. That's how dumb, like I make mistakes, man. It's all in spite of me. It's not because of me. When the Spirit decides to move on people, you can't stop it. You just got to catch up. And you're sitting here right now and you don't even necessarily know as you walked in here, the Spirit was going to catch you. You've been ducking and weaving. You've been trying to avoid. And now the Spirit's like, whoa, you got no vision for your life. You are dying. But let me give you one. And it's not about you. It's about the glory of God and the people around you and reaching them through your own humility. It ain't about you. There's nothing about, and I'll just keep using my church as an image, as a picture of the kind of reason that you need to be humble. There's nothing about this church that should have worked. I was 29 years old. It was a group of 50 ragtag people in a gym. I preached through every church growth strategy on the planet. We do the opposite. It's just, hey, make sure you don't just preach through long books of the Bible year after year after year. So I'm like, okay, perfect. That's what we'll do. Keep it small. So all I do, because I'm not very creative, I just preach through books of the Bible, verse by verse by verse by verse by verse. Literally, most of my sermons we've been 2 years in the Gospel of Matthew. We're in chapter 10 at the beginning. 2 years, every single time. Listen, most of my sermons are Matthew chapter 10, verse 16a. And then, and then it takes years and years again. So that's going to kill the church right there. So that'll keep it small. Then I'm 29. I don't know anything yet. So, that'll keep it small. And I have Tourette's. Now, I don't know if you know this. Probably not, because we've only known each other for 20 minutes. So I grew up with Tourette's syndrome, which, if you're keeping track, is not the way to be the coolest guy in school. All right? I do these random habits, and I swear to myself, like I would be sitting in school doing a test, an exam in a room full of people, an entire room, and it'd be dead silent, and I would just go, and I'd swear, like, all right? And it would echo out, and everyone would like, listen, now this is not the way you're gonna preach. This is not gonna be good if randomly you do that. It's never gonna work. If you've ever been to South Surrey, all right, which most of you probably haven't, it's a perfect place. I mean, these people are perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. They drive perfect cars. They have perfect marriages. They're all rich. Their houses are perfect. And I'm going to go in there and plant the church, and I'm twitching around with my face. Oh, you can see I do this with my face. That's like residue left over. This ain't going to work, man. And I remember, sitting with my mentor, and he says, listen, because the Spirit's in it, here's the deal. It will work, and I'll tell you why. You'll give these perfect people permission to be broken, to be lost, to be a mess. And when you do, they will admit it to God. There'll be a poverty of spirit and then they'll actually meet Jesus versus what they think they know now. And that's what started to happen. These perfect people began to come in and listen to me twitching around and, we're doing weird. What is that? It doesn't make any sense. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because the Lord has anointed me. That's not you. That's Him. You try to do it in your own power, try to reach your kid that strayed from God in your own power. But if I just do this enough and I tweak this enough and I buy them this book and I make sure that they do this and this is all you have. It's just Him. Holy Spirit, move, change my kid, reach my spouse, whatever it is, it ain't gonna work. No strategy is gonna work. We just did an Easter service. None of it should have worked. I got up, preached for a couple minutes. We had 11 people signed up for baptism on Easter Sunday between the two services. And what started to happen is people started to come down. And by the time the time was over, there was 56 people who'd been baptized on the spot. We're talking about in their Easter clothes. In their Easter clothes. Like just walking up with their dresses. There was a 65-year-old couple. How does that happen? Just walking up in their Sunday best. All right, they were just going to go out for lunch after. It's like, all right, let's get baptized. All right, they're soaking wet, going home in their Easter best. Their grandkids are like, Mama. There was a couple that came in. There was literally a couple that came in, and they knew nobody. They walked into the service, were singing, listening to sermon, blah, blah, and then looked over to the people next to them and said, can you watch our children? We're going to go up and get baptized now. On the spot. That is not safe or good practice for any of you going, oh, that sounds like a great idea. That's dumb. Here, stranger, you look nice. Take my children. Sure. We're sitting in our, we have a debrief every Tuesday morning. A couple weeks ago, literally, here's the Spirit of God at work. I stood up and preached this, I don't even know what I was talking about for 10 minutes. It was just a little thought, little devotional thought on a Sunday, because we were doing what we do, Worship Sunday. And then I went and sat down. We went to our debrief on Tuesday morning, and our admin person said, we need to train the ushers to get people to receive Christ. And I was like, why? And they're like, because I said, I didn't even invite anyone to receive Jesus on Sunday. And they go, I know, but people did. They just walked up to the ushers and said, hey, can I receive Jesus? Can you lead me to Jesus? And the ushers aren't trained. They're like, bucket? Right? They're like, I don't know how to do. What are you talking about? I just hand the bag around. Right? But here's the thing. The Spirit drops. And then you're faithful enough to respond to it. This is life change. On the spot, I'm talking about. Right here. He's working to anoint you to do something with your life beyond living for the weekend. Getting a raise, trying to get ahead of your buddy, get a nicer car, more vacation time. Get a bigger house. Raise your kids better than her. Bigger than this. All that stuff is so temporal and shallow. He goes, here's what I want you to live for. Other people. My glory in other people. The people around you, not you. So we're humble because it's not about us, it's about Him. Secondly, Lomanek talks about the idea of just staying hungry. We got to stay hungry for this. This will wane over time. You will leave here, and by the parking lot, your mind will start to drift from this mission. How do you stay hungry? How do you care about this Wednesday afternoon? How do you care about this call to bring good news to the poor and bind up the brokenhearted and proclaim liberty to the captives and open up how are you going to care about? How are you going to care? Because our hearts over time drift from stuff. I was reading in Matthew where Jesus looks at his disciples and he's given a picture of God the Father, and he says he knows every hair on your head. He's counted, you know that passage, right? He knows every hair on your head. Think about that for a second. How many of you have kids? Okay, this is how much God cares. Okay, you have kids. How many of you have ever sat down, raised your hand, and counted the hairs on your kid's head? How many? Counted them. I mean, if you have, keep your hand down because everyone will think you're crazy anyway. But here's the deal. None of you have. None of you have. Why? Because you don't care. You don't care. But he does. He loves your kids more than you do. See, every single one of us tonight could go home. I got my smallest, she's 5 years old, her name's Bella. I could go home and count every hair on Bella's head. The average size, is about 140,000 hairs. I'll look that up for you. And so I could go home tonight and spend, I don't know how long, it would take 12 hours to sift through every single hair. I could do it. You could do it, but you don't. Because you don't care like he cares. By the time you know this, as the kids, my first kid, all right, Sienna, she's traveling with me. Her book, her little baby book, it's this big. It's got everything in it. It's got her first eyelashes. We got that stuff sealed down. We got her footprints imprinted. We got everything from this girl, all right? Her first words, her first little throw up. We froze it and we've got it in everything. It's like, oh, it's a sanctuary of the first kid, man. The first kid. Then I had a second one. I got a third one. Listen, my third one, her book, I'm not kidding you. This is a true story. It's empty. There is nothing in it. Zero. And she weekly, I'm not kidding you, 2 to 3 times, will pull this little stool up beside where we keep these books in the cupboard, and she'll go and she'll open up and she'll bring it to us and go, can we start this now? All right? Because I don't care. You don't care anymore. It's your third kid. You're trying to survive, man. You're trying to breathe. Just get out of my face. He cares more about your kids than you do. He cares more about you than you do. This is where the gospel becomes beautiful. See, what do we see in Jesus? You got a cross up here. That's not aesthetic. That's it. That's everything. Because what does it say? It said you couldn't do it. You could not earn this. Nothing you could do could earn your way to him. So what did he have to do? Humble himself, be hungry enough to come and die for you. And he brutally died for you. Because you could never, he counted every hair in your head and he said, I care so much about these people. I'm going to send my son. He's going to die in their place because they could never do it. And not only did he die, and he took on the sin, and he took on the wrath of God for you so that you don't have to experience this. This is what I started to clue into when I was 17. Oh my gosh, I could not earn this. Jesus did it for me. I need to come under. I need to believe in him. I need to trust him. I need to give my life to him. And some of you, you're here and you've never even, you see the cross as aesthetic. You know what that cross is doing? It's preaching at you every time you see it. It's saying you could not earn this. So I had to come and do it for you. And now the Spirit of the Lord, because he died and he rose again from death to give us life, can give you life, can empower you to be transformed, to have power, to change your marriage, yes. To work harder, yes. To defeat the porn addiction, yes. To stop sleeping with your girlfriend, yes. Power. That's what we need. And that's what he's offering. Because that's true. And only because that's true. And so we have to stay hungry because we got to start to care like he cares. That's the point. When you leave here and your heart starts to drift, go, oh my gosh, he counted the hairs on my head. What if I cared about my neighbor, my spouse, my kid, my coworker like he cares about me? What if I cared like he cared? And the last thing Lomenick talks about is, yes, you got to stay hungry and hungry and hungry. You got to stay hungry for God. You got to stay hungry for the Bible, right? Hungry for the scriptures. I love how people have their Bibles out. I just love that. Just like, are you hungry for this? Because you know the only thing you're going to be able to talk to your coworker about is what you read here. You proclaim. The only thing you're going to know. What does Jesus say in the Gospel of Matthew? He says, what you hear in the dark, that's what you're to proclaim in the light. What I whisper to you, but there's an assumption that you can actually hear him. Do you even hear him anymore? Can you hear him talk to you? Can you hear him whisper to you? Because if you can, you got to be obedient to it. I was asked to come and speak at a conference in Toronto in October, and I went. And I remember sitting there, and I listened to the first speaker, and I listened to the second speaker. And I looked to the guys who were next to me, because I was third up. And I said, I can't preach this message. And they said, why? And they said, because I just listened to them preach, and I'm about to get up and say some way different stuff than that. And they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I feel like God's basically saying, hey, look, a bunch of you in this room who are pastors probably shouldn't be in ministry anymore. And the best thing for your church is that if you just fire yourself. And there's other people in this room that you think you're not fit for ministry, but God's actually calling you to have a very unique role. And you're about to leave and not care about it anymore. But God has you here for a reason. And they said, well, then you got to preach that. And I'm like, I don't know if that's going to go over well. Like, I don't know if after I preach it, they're not going to like it anymore. And you're going to go on the website and you'll be able to click on every other sermon except mine. It will be blacked out. True story. I don't know if that's going to happen. And they said, well, you got to do it. What did God tell you to do? I said, well, he whispered to me in the dark. This is what I'm supposed to do. So I got up and I did that. And afterwards, what started to happen? People started to walk forward. And one guy walks up to me and he was weeping. And he gave me a big hug and he looked at me and he goes, you don't understand. He goes, I was walking by this building. I was going to leave ministry tomorrow. I have written my resignation. I felt unworthy, and I was walking by this building. I didn't even know this thing was going on. And I walked in, and he goes, I just took a name tag off the wall. This ain't even my name. Clearly, Sarah, it's not. And he goes, and I walked in here, and I was going to leave ministry, but now something happened in the room. And I have a purpose. This is what happens. We stay hungry for the scriptures. What he whispered to me in the dark, you got to be faithful with that. And lastly, Lomenick talks about the idea of always hustling. As you leave here, you're going to be tempted to not work hard, not hustle. I think there's a better ethic of look at verse 4 of Isaiah 61. They build up the ancient ruins. They shall raise up the former devastations. They shall repair the ruined cities. There is work to be done in this room. You are the missionaries. You are the ones who have to work. If you don't do it, no one will do it. If you don't do it, no one will do it. There's work to be done. And what we're going to start to do is drift and not hustle. So yeah, we got to be humble. Yeah, we got to stay hungry. But we got to always hustle and work harder than everybody else. Listen, you know what your competition is? You know what your competition is? Not the church down the street. Your competition is the world that surrounds you, vying at every moment for the minds of the people in your life. In your life. You are getting preached at every moment. Here's what sexuality is. Here's what money's for. Here's what family is. Every time you turn on the radio or go by a billboard, it's preaching a reality to you. And the kingdom of God goes, no. You either belong to that world or you belong to this world. And once this world has changed you, then you need to rebuild. You need to work hard. We have a bunch of millennials that work for us, which is an interesting challenge. Because millennials are a very entitled bunch, all right? They only do jobs that fit the woof of their soul. And oftentimes I sit with these millennials and I'm like, man, if I sent you to a normal, like I'm not talking ministry, I'm talking a normal place of work, like the places you guys work, all right? You would last till lunch with your backpack on. and your toque. What does it mean to work tirelessly? Not to earn it, but because it's been earned for you, we work to rebuild for what? He ends it in verse 4 by going, the devastation of many generations. You can reverse a legacy. You can change your city. How? You have a generation of kids who love and serve Jesus, who come up that you love, that you disciple, that you show the way to. This is your white hot why. And some of you are not living it. All you're living for is the cabin that you want to get, redoing your kitchen, getting the better car, upgrading your whatever. And you're going to start to drift as you walk to the parking lot. He's going, I'm calling you. So why don't we stand together? I want to put before you the challenge of Isaiah 61. Some of us in this room are not living this out. Some of you in this room, the Spirit has never got a hold of you. You've never responded to the work of the Spirit as much as He's whispered and called and tried to do a work in your life. You have resisted and said, I'm not one of those. I'm not a Christian. I'm here because my spouse brought me or because my kids are here or whatever. But maybe today, like I did when I was 17, you just feel something. Just like something's different, something's connecting. This is the day. You turn it all around, that you get empowered for something great beyond yourself. And then others of you are here and you're like, I've been a Christian most of my life. I've just never lived this stuff out. Never been on mission like this to reach my neighbor and my coworker, the brokenhearted, the captive. But today can be a day where that turns around. And so we're going to have a prayer team come up as Pastor Daniel invites you every week to engage with this prayer team. And if you fit either of those camps, you're someone who goes, okay, today's the day I want to come to know Jesus, man. Look at this work He did for me. I can't deny it anymore. I can't. Then we invite you to come forward. They will pray for you. They will guide you, love on you, lead you. And then if you're a Christian and you're here and you're like, I need to get on mission maybe for the first time in my life. I got to wake up, man. I want to just reset. Then they'll pray for you too. And so as we worship, I'll call you to come forward and get prayer for those two things. Pray with me. Father,